the potential for the planetary nexus down at the natural, with a couple of units warping in there, and much more stalker heavy this time. Last time he only had, well, last time he had 3. Now he has 4 and a 5th coming on. So it does look like he's preparing for it and trying to adapt to what he saw happen last time.
Yeah, let's see if it works out for him. So we're looking at 4 there, and that big drop coming in. Boost is available, but this time around, he's not going to boost into the mineral line. He's going to place it on the natural ramp, you sneaky little devil.
But there's an observer right there, so as long as he's careful with the stalkers. And he does get... Oh, he takes a little damage on the mothership core, but nothing serious.
Well, never mind. It looked clever, but the observer kind of shut that one down. Never mind.
On the other hand, he lost a Widow Mine, but that's it. So it's not like a huge investment loss. Obviously not as good a position as it was last game, but not bad by any means.
No, definitely not all in by any stretch of the imagination. Drunken Boy has a look around and says, all right, well, there's a almost full energy Mothership Core and 3 Stalkers. That probably isn't worthwhile. Minigun gets down a nice proxy pylon placement there, although there are 2 Widow Mines and a bunker ready. The Stalker is on its way up with Blink, though. The Stalker count's actually getting pretty high. It's already to 9. We're seeing Blink being researched here.
Yeah, we're seeing Blink research, and we're also seeing no Robo-Bay, so he's not going Colossus as he was in previous games. And it definitely looks like putting down those proxy pylons, 2 of them down on the bottom of the map, upgrading Blink that quickly, focusing so much on Stalker production, I think it's definitely going to be not an all-in. Oh, and he gets the medevac, and that's absolutely huge right now, because that is the one way that Drunken Boy could actually control where Minigun's units are. He needs to leave some units back to defend that if that medevac is still out on the map, but the fact that he killed that means he can now put everything into the attack. He can just go without worrying about anything else. And this is going to be not an all-in, as I said, but a very strong attack, just now putting up a Robo-Bay, no third base. He's definitely committed something to this. And if we look at Drunken Boy's defense, it's now 3 Marauders, a Marine, and 2 Widow Mines, plus a bunker.
Things that will not successfully defend this include...
Yes, those are all on that list, and it's not looking too good. He does find the pylon, but now his units are actually going to be caught out on the map. Minigun could have blinked in there and got all those, but he wasn't quite fast enough on the reaction. That's still a very scary army coming in here for Drunken Boy.
It would be miraculous if this was defended properly. It's going to be extremely difficult to do. He even has the blink option up to the high ground thanks to the Observer. Scan actually does go down and will not pick that off. The blink comes in before that, and that's just an overwhelming army, and I don't see a way out of this one for Drunken Boy, quite frankly, unless he gets an amazing Stalker surround it, and even then, that's not going to happen with the blink now becoming available. Micro is in play right now. Drunken Boy's army is taking a big battering. Minigun, of course, can warp in more units. There's a Colossus on the way, 3 more Stalkers being added in here. That single Marauder is doing heroic work down on the bottom there, but this is a lot of damage that's already been inflicted here by Minigun.
Yeah, Drunken Boy realized just a second too late that he had to shoot down that Observer and prevent the blink up in. As it turned out, he got in there, and then that was the end of it. The Widow Mines, the bunkers, totally irrelevant, and not nearly enough units. Minigun just kind of caught him unprepared.
Yep, not even close. And Minigun now with a huge lead, and it's looking very unlikely that we'll see Drunken Boy get out of this. The units just being killed as they spawn, and there's that single tank that is heroically doing nothing whatsoever, and that is most likely going to be a game between these two. And Minigun with a strong counterattack here, and I think he adapted quite nicely to Drunken Boy's style. That was very much it did seem to be tailored for him, and he was able to figure it out. He was able to make that work, and now we have Minigun with a score on the board.
Yeah, that certainly was a response to what he saw in the last game. He scouted it. He saw it was going to be the same kind of thing, so he just started adding up the Stalker production, getting that Twilight Council, and skipping the Colossus. And that was a really good on-the-fly kind of thing, and he scouted for it. He didn't just assume, so it was very smart, safe play out of Minigun. And hopefully can continue that going forward.
That would be pretty damn cool. Drunken Boy picks Whirlwind for his next. Here's a big surprise. Neoplanet S is at the back again.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Shouldn't have put that in the pool.
Yeah, not the favorite map of most players. I'm not sure how it works in TVP. I imagine it'd be very difficult for Protoss to actually hold on to a third base while dealing with drops.
Yeah, could very well be that. Well, we're going to see Whirlwind, so nice big map. Could open up to pretty much anything. All spawn positions are, of course, available here, so it's going to be a little bit different to what we've seen there, especially on Star Station, which now uses that cross-spawn position. So I'm intrigued to see what comes out of it. I think, though, we're going to have to see a different style from Drunken Boy. He tried the same trick twice. It worked the first time, didn't the second. And not a terrible bet to make, I think, when you're ahead 2-0.
Yeah, although I was honestly a little bit disappointed because he showed such a creative build in the first game, and then another pretty smart, different build in the second game. I was hoping you would you would just have something different prepared for every map. But that's pretty difficult to do. And it is a build that has a fallback. Like we saw in his base, he had a ton of production. He had a third CC. He had double upgrades going. Like it's not an all-in. It's not something he was dependent on. He just happened to get caught by Minigun's attack, and so it looked like an all-in. So that's a pretty reliable thing, and I'm not too disappointed. But I was hoping he would have something cool for every map.
Well, let's see what he's got for Whirlwind. This was his pick. All spawns are, of course, possible, and that means any build is possible. But it does tend to favor the longer macro games, and we have not really had a chance yet to see Drunken Boy actually play that.
I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if we went for a very quick CC on here. He's been opening Reaper expansion every game, but obviously not quite as good on this map just because it's 4 positions. You're not going to get that immediate scouting information, and you don't have to worry too much about aggression from your opponent, particularly with the way Minigun's been playing. Fast expansion every game, 0 pressure out of him. I would really like it if Drunken Boy just went CC first this game, try and take advantage of the map and his opponent.
That'd be pretty damn cool. Alright, folks, here we are. We are on Whirlwind, and in the red trunks, we have Root Minigun playing Protoss to the northwest versus his opponent in the long by ground cross position. It is FXO Drunken Boy in the blue trunks playing Terran.
Cross positions on probably the biggest map in the active pool. Definitely not going to encourage early aggression out of either of these players, and so again that would play into Drunken Boy being greedy. Minigun could be greedy as well, but he has been very, very one-dimensional. Every PvT I've seen him play in this tournament has been that Mothership Core expand, and that's about as safe and generic as you can get in PvT right now. So, pretty good chance he's going to stick with that. Obviously, it'd be nice to see him adapt to the map, but that does seem to be his go-to build.
Yeah, and that could be a little bit problematic when you've got someone like Drunken Boy who's very, very clearly... He's going to go gas on... Oh, this is going to be gas first here from Drunken Boy. All right, okay, funky, funky. I think if you're Drunken Boy and you're actually prepared, then you are in a great position to exploit the fact that your opponent is doing the same thing every game.
Yeah, he's clearly been very prepared for everything Minigun's thrown against him, except for that Blink Stalker. Well, so I guess we shouldn't say very prepared for everything, but the first 2 games he had planned out very, very well. The third one, not so much, didn't work out so well. But as you said, the gas first, so that could lead into a 1-base Widowmine or a 1-base Hellbat drop, either of the two. Maybe something else. It's kind of hard to predict him. Like, first game we saw him go 2 Ravens right off the bat. So anything is possible with him, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a quick Hellbat drop or a quick Widowmine drop with that gas first.
That's definitely a possibility, and he is still at 1 map, so if he wants to do some big 1-base all-in, then we know that he's capable of it, and I'm intrigued to see what happens. Whirlwind is a funky map to do it on, but it's definitely not outside the realms of possibility.
It would certainly fit in with his style, and he does have a game to play with. He can afford to give up 1 more and still be in it with that 2-1 advantage. But an all-in cross-map on Whirlwind, that's about as long as a distance as you can get for SCVs to travel.
Yep, it would take a while, honestly, and the chances of Minigun not seeing it coming are pretty damn minimal. So if he pulls that, it will go down in history for one reason or another.
Personally, what I would like to see him do is just open absolutely normal and then just do the normal 2-1 bio plus SCV pull timing, because Minigun really just zero variation in his play. He's opening fast to Nexus, he's going straight up to Colossus, and then he's making a decent little army behind it. And I really feel that just kind of generic timing would beat it. But Drunken Boy playing a little bit too diversely for us to see that. He has other things planned, and we do see a Widowmine immediately and a Starport coming up, so it looks like it should be a Widowmine drop.
Yeah, I wonder how many Widowmines will be involved in this. It could very well be the Full Marine 2 Widowmine drop, which is a nice little variant of it. There will not be 4 Widowmines out by the time a Medevac is out, unless, of course, a reactor appears from the Twisting Ether, which is not going to happen. What I'm hoping not to see, of course, is the same build 3 times in a row, but we already know that the gas went down earlier, so it's definitely a variant. There is no reactor there, so yeah, there's the second Widowmine coming in. Oh, I wonder, he may wait for all 4, you never know.
Could be. With no Reaper and no CC, it's definitely going to come much faster than the previous build, but it's also going to have less support. He doesn't have a reactor to get out the Hellions to run in the front or anything. Yeah. It's very, very much so going to be a dedicated drop, like Widowmine dedicated with some Marines for support. And this is a little bit of an outdated build. It hasn't seen quite as much use recently as the fast expansion builds and the more generic styles. So this may be something that Minigun's unprepared for, but we see already units hovering around his main. Definitely something he could be worried about. And that's actually quite a bit of a commitment, given that he has no scouting out in front of Drunken Boy's base. He has no idea if units could be running across the map. So staying in the main is basically saying, you've been doing drop play, I know that that is what you're comfortable with, and I'm willing to bet on that happening again. So he might be pretty prepared for it.
4 Marine 2 Widowmine is on its way, and we'll see what he can do with that. There's various little ways to play this. Some players like to drop 1 Widowmine in each mineral line, depending on, of course, how optimal and how close they are and how viable that is. But aside from that, it does give you a reasonable amount of firepower and a reasonable amount of control to allow you to position your Widowmines in such a way that they're not immediately picked off and that they can be the most effective. The downside, of course, is that you're playing a little bit to chance because microwing everything and microwing the Widowmines so that you get an optimal target is extremely difficult. The follow-up here, interestingly enough, is Hellions with Banshee.
Yeah, that's a very strange build. I don't think Banshee gets very much play in TvP anymore, and if he doesn't make this drop do any damage, I don't think that Banshee's going to do very much. If he doesn't get minigun off balance with this initial aggression, I think the follow-up with the Banshee and the Hellions is just going to be a complete waste. And the medevac has been denied thus far. He does land in there, putting the mine over the ramp again. That didn't work last time, but this time it's a little bit faster, a little bit earlier. I don't see an observer out just yet. Oh, and a big hit on the probes transferring over.
Yeah, we got a couple out there, and the medevac will be able to escape. This Widowmine snuck around, though. It's actually made its way into the main mineral line. This could be a huge connection right here. Off it goes, and that's a big probe hit. And Minigun was too busy distracted with what was going on at the front there to actually be able to pick that up before it did damage. So 7 workers killed there.
Yeah, nice move by Drunken Boy to kind of salvage that, but really Minigun was just totally prepared everywhere.
Yeah.
He handled that about as well as he could. Obviously, seeing that other mine coming around would have been perfect, but you can afford to lose seven probes when the command center is that much slower than your Nexus. You got Chrono Charge going. We see he's already up 7 workers anyway.
Yeah.
So more than fine for him. The Drunken Boy with a 3rd CC coming very quickly, just totally exposed, saying that you're not going to attack me. I'm just going to go ahead and build up behind here. But no eBays, no extra barracks. He's still not in a very good position. That was a big commitment he made to that Widowmine drop, and it did not pay off for sure.
Banshee's now going to try and work its way in, and it can actually do that because the Photon Overcharge did just exhaust itself. I mean, Drunken Boy could actually even try to pick up a sentry or 2. That would be nice, but he seems like he's just being a bit cautious with it. He gets 3 workers. Don't think it's really justified the investment of the Banshee yet, though.
No, not quite yet, especially given how much starport time that's used. Well, I mean, I guess it could have been a Raven for him, but it could have been Vikings, could have been more medevacs, and we do see the Robo Bay coming up, so those Vikings will need to come into play. But that Banshee's just going to sit up there and continue to harass. I'm sure it will get more probe kills, and eventually it will probably pay for itself. It's just a question of time and the importance of the starport time versus the probe count. And really, I think Minigun's winning out on the trade thus far. And actually, another quick Raven.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, first Raven out. No second one as of yet. Now we see a traditional Hellion drop. And he's going to go right in for it there, but there are already Stalkers prepared for this, so Miniguns are all over this. We'll see how much damage can be done. A couple of good shots could certainly help him out here, but again, it's whether or not the investment's even worthwhile. One more shot, maybe a couple more. The Stalker's not really doing that well, and he actually transitions this over and brings the Banshee in as well, which isn't going to do a damn thing, I don't think, because the Stalker is there to fend that off along with the sentries. It's being annoying, certainly. There's now 16 workers killed, so he is actually working Minigun pretty well and reducing his economic output, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, I think he just gave up on that medevac, and unless Minigun just didn't notice it was there, it was done for. He probably should have gone into the natural and just suicided on a few more probes. Because when we look at the worker count, they've actually equalized now, and Drunken Boy has a 3rd orbital up and running mules. So economically, Drunken Boy has somehow turned this around. But if we look at the armies, that's where it gets kind of scary for Drunken Boy. It's just a matter of him holding off for long enough for his economy to turn into production. Yeah. And given that it is cross-map on Whirlwind, I think he actually has a pretty good chance of doing that. So somehow or another, this has turned out quite well for him. It didn't look like it from the start, but it has.
Yeah, he's doing a good job at picking away at his opponent there. He's also being pretty patient with it, even though he's applying a lot of aggression. This Banshee is a great example of something that's been used a little bit over the course of a few minutes. It's killed 4 probes so far, which is okay, but it's not great. But as you accurately pointed out, Drunken Boy's army is next to non-existent, and he does need to get that rolling, but he is now. He's getting 4 Marines, 3 Marauders out at a time. He finally has got that production rolling pretty well. Banshee attempts to do damage and at least picks off the probe and doesn't die as well, so it's still there as a threat, keeping them back. And then we're going to get a double drop into the base here, which is maybe going to get... No, it's not going to get spotted by Minigun's pylons there. So Drunken Boy now arcing around and looking to find a good place. The pylon spread actually in Minigun's base is great for early warning.
Yeah, this drop is I love that he has the confidence to actually pick up pretty much his entire army at this point in the game and just go into his base and get aggressive with it. But it's not going to work. There's no distraction. There's nothing to actually say that this is going to be a smart move. What he should have done is just wait for any sign of a move out, just keep it outside of his base, and as soon as the army moves out, then he goes in. But as is, like, what else is Minigun's army going to be doing? It's going to sit there defending. So of course it's not really going to work out.
The Drunken Boy fired a Seeker missile at something. I didn't seem to actually do anything, though. Maybe he aimed it at an Observer, which would have been really weird. Trying to deny that, and the Banshee's going to finally die after getting 5 kills and being an annoying pain in the ass for the last 10 minutes. So I guess it kind of paid for itself in terms of mental anguish factor. Yeah,
Banshee's always just so annoying. Even if you deal with them, it almost never feels like it was cost efficient, much along the lines of the Hellbat drops. And they both end up getting their third bases. Drunken Boy is obviously finished and floated over, lands around the time the Nexus starts for Minigun. So faster, but that's not really too much of a disadvantage. Terran usually gets their expansions faster.
Oh,
and one medevac goes down.
Yeah, not great response time from Drunken Boy there, honestly. He was able to pick up, but he did lose half of that. That shouldn't have really happened. Nice scan to eliminate the Observer, so there's only one on the map right now, which is always great. It's a great position for a Terran to be in when there's barely any vision. I mean, Minigun sees nothing right now.
Yeah, he's very much so playing on the back foot. But he is getting into the position where he's kind of comfortable. The first 2 games, he was playing very, very aggressive. He was moving out with just 1 or 2 Colossus, which is very strange because in all the other PvTs I've seen of him, it seems like he much prefers to sit back and play defensively with those Colossus and get up to Templar tech. So now it seems like he's getting more into his comfort zone. This definitely looks like the kind of game that we've seen him play in the past. But it looks like Drunken Boy is going to move out and try and attack, maybe take that away from him. But he doesn't even have a single medevac with the army, and just a couple of Vikings, so those Colossus would just absolutely destroy him in a straight-up battle.
I can't imagine that he's going to try and make this engagement. Even it's strange. It's almost like he's menacing it. I mean, he drew the Zealot back. He was kiting it around for whatever reason. He does have a scary number of Marauders. I mean, I think that's probably the only thing that I could really say about this army. It is 1-1. It has a scary number of Marauders. He's pushing out around the time when he would have Infantry Weapon 2, but he doesn't have it yet. And Infantry 2 is about to finish for Protoss and Infantry Ground Armor. So this is probably one of the worst times that I could say to push out, really, and he's got to get a good engagement to make this work.
Templar come in, and that could feed back the... Oh, he gets the PDD down first, but this is still just so much AoE damage from Minigun and not enough Vikings. He has to retreat.
Yeah, this is not going to work out so well for him at all. Thankfully, the Marauders can tank a lot of that, but he has no means to repair it, so he isn't going to be able to heal that. He just has to leave right now. It was a weird poke. I mean, it came in before +1 as well, which is really strange in my opinion. With +2, in fact.
Very, very strange. No SCV pull, so it's not like he was all-inning at that point. 0 medevacs, so there's no sustain to it. It didn't really make sense. I'm not sure what triggered him to go for that. And at the same time, Minigun now has a forward pylon just constantly warping in Zealots to harass that third base. And he is getting up towards the high-tech army. He has Archons in there, he has Colossus, he has Templar tech available, and as you said, the 2-2 upgrades. And this is when the Protoss army starts to get scary. If he establishes a 4th base, that could be the end of Drunken Boy. Especially given...
Sorry, go ahead.
Given that he wasted so much on that attack, there's no way he's going to be able to pressure anything that Minigun does at this point.
No, I don't think so. Minigun has decided after posturing that, now would be a good time to try and get a 4th base up, and Drunken Boy is trying to do the same thing as well. Upgrades have now equalized quite nicely. Of course, that will always result in the Protoss player having higher upgrades because Chrono Boost exists, so there will be a window there, depending on how much Chrono Boost he wants to invest in it. Psystorm is on the way, though. Templar on the way, and we're seeing that nice big Tier 3 composition from the Protoss player where he mixes in some Templar, he mixes in some Colossus, and he picks the kind of mix of composition that he's looking for. Now, what I'm really interested to see here, because this is something that I haven't seen from Drunken Boy yet, is how good is he with Ghosts? The Templar versus Ghost war is something that I feel is, maybe you can correct me on this, I think it's more difficult for the Terran player than it is for the Protoss.
I would agree. It definitely seems like it. It's not a matchup I play at high level on either side, so it's not like a professional opinion, but it definitely does seem like the Templar are the easier to use and potentially the more effective.
Yeah.
However, if you get one good EMP on the group of Templar and you have enough Vikings for the Colossus, then you can just absolutely obliterate a max Protoss army with very few losses. It's very much so a control-centric battle. I do feel that the late game edge goes to Protoss, just because with the ability to warp in, they can have essentially a 220, 240 supply army, and also the ability to bounce back and forth between Colossus and Templar more quickly. But if you're a Terran with impeccable control, it can be nearly unbeatable in late game. So a lot of it's going to come down to Drunken Boy's positioning and Ghost usage here.
I've got to ask, do you think that Minigun's decision to hang back and allow Drunken Boy to max out was actually a mistake on his part?
He definitely had a window after that attack came in at 12 o'clock, but here it looks like Drunken Boy is actually going to go in. Kind of, maybe.
Blink comes along, doing a little bit of damage to the Vikings. We're not going to see him coming down. Storm actually lands. Where that Templar came from, I have no idea. It must have been hidden in the palm trees or something like that. So, and that did significant damage, and due to the fairly low medevac count, a defensive Storm goes down right there. Snipe goes off as well. This is a pretty damn good defense from Minigun so far.
Yeah, a Drunken Boy has been running on one starboard the entire game, just now getting a second one up, so not enough Vikings, not enough medevacs. His army is very squishy, and with 5 Colossus out, that's going to be really hard to deal with.
That was weird. Picked up 4 Marauders and they just died pretty much instantly in a medevac, so that was definitely not a flight they wanted to take. And Minigun takes a great engagement and actually takes the supply lead over Drunken Boy, who is now scuttering back home with only 3 medevacs and very injured troops.
The lack of medevacs is really just destroying him. Every time a storm hits, that's essentially, you know, a good chunk of his army. A good chunk of his army HP is gone.
Yes.
Because he cannot heal that at the rate that Terran really is supposed to be able to do. He just doesn't have as many medevacs as he's supposed to. And a Warp Prism coming into the main, completely undefended from Drunken Boy. That's going to be really, really hard to deal with. And I imagine at the same time, Minigun has to go in at 6 o'clock and kill that as he deals with the Warp in.
Yeah, that would be good. We actually did, for some reason, we're seeing a double drop from Drunken Boy that I believe passed the Warp Prism. I guess he didn't notice, or maybe it was out of visibility range. But the Warp in comes in right now. And of course, these are 3-3 Zealots, which are always going to be good pretty much in every possible scenario here. A Ghost went down to that as well. I mean, even picking off the Ghost made that worth it, in my opinion. And the Tech Lab has taken some damage. It may burn down if he leaves it alone. The drop comes in here, which seems to have been spotted because Minigun pulls his entire army back and doesn't actually get to hit that 6 o'clock position. So in reality, the drop didn't do that much.
I feel that was kind of mismanaged by Minigun, honestly, because like he does deny that drop, but he pulled his entire army back to do so, which is pretty inefficient.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he ran his Warp Prism right into the main, so it was spotted instantly, killed off with the Vikings instantly. If he had sat on the edge and warped in more Zealots, he might have done more. But as is, he kind of threw away that little timing where he had an advantage because of the initial battles.
This is a dangerous position for his Colossus to be in, I feel, simply because there's so little in terms of the actual anti-air. The Vikings could dart in and dart out, but Drunken Boy didn't seem to be able to take advantage of that. Minigun's still with a slightly smaller army here than his opponent. In fact, Drunken Boy has less workers there. The Ghost count is ridiculous. Like, this is Thorzane level of ridiculous. This is 16.
More and more Terrans are just heading towards mass Ghosts late game, just because the strength of the MP, obviously. But he's being really, really sloppy with his Ghosts. Every time he goes in, he loses a handful of Ghosts. Huge storms,
see
too.
That was insane. The number of Ghosts that went down there, combo Storm and the AoE. Now, as we look into this engagement, I'll talk a little bit about the point that I want to raise about this after that, but let's see if he can actually defend here. He is being menaced. He's taking a lot of damage. Minigun's maxed out. Drunken Boy most assuredly isn't. He threw away a lot of Ghosts there for no real reason. Storm comes down defensively to deal with this drop here that will be cleaned up by that single Zealot. What a hero he is. Only a little bit of damage done there by Drunken Boy's drops, and the harassment potential here from Drunken Boy is limited because he has to deal with this gigantic ball of death that is rolling down his natural.
Yeah, so much damage coming out of Minigun. He just has to make sure he takes a good engagement. Big EMPs, though, that hits like the entire thing. Minigun's entire army is clumped, so that's one big thing. But Storms on Drunken. Oh, wow.
That's not going to last long. That is nasty to watch, and the Terran Blade just gets utterly obliterated. And this might very well be game coming in here as Minigun makes his way through to the 4th base. He'll be taking that out quite easily, and Drunken Boy is relying. He actually has almost more Ghosts than Marines, which is a very strange position to be in. And now he's going to try and engage as best he can. There's still a Colossus. It gets EMP'd. It may eventually be taken down here, but it's still firing. That's messy. And Drunken Boy is plummeting in supply right now as Minigun patiently gets the right kind of composition and takes him to pieces.
Yeah, Minigun didn't even really need a composition in that battle. Everything was the Storms. They just killed everything by themselves, and everything else was just to clean up. And no observers, so the Ghosts are going to be annoying here. And he's honestly cleaned up this army much better than I expected after that initial engagement.
Yeah.
But still, losing a command center, losing all the SCVs he had there, not looking good at all.
GG. And we have once again a tie, which means that the final deathmatch will, of course, be done on Neoplanet S, which I'm sure they're both really looking forward to. Now, there was a point I wanted to raise, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it, and I was watching the GSTL last week, and it was Axiom Acer versus Prime, and the final match was Crank versus Beyond. Now, Beyond was playing a really good game. Crank was playing very defensively. He was behind at times, and he started building up that big Tier 3 composition, and Beyond started creating the counter composition. However, in the final engagement, what we ended up seeing was, as a result of a large amount of both Ghosts and Vikings, the actual army from Beyond wasn't really that scary, and as a result, the Vikings were easily caught out and stormed, and then Beyond just didn't have enough firepower to actually kill the Protoss army. And this is not the first time I've seen this from Terran players either. Do you feel that some Terran players might very well be overcommitting to specialist units in the late game versus Protoss?
I think it's just actually a very difficult situation in general for Terran. I've talked to a couple of good Terrans, some Terrans who play on Korea and whatnot, and they say that TVP metagame right now is kind of just focused on denying that fourth base, even to the extent of SCV all-inning whenever you see an opportunity. Very much so an attack early, an attack often kind of play.
Yeah.
And so that says to me that the four gas, the late game heavy tech army is just so hard to counter efficiently that that's really the problem there. You have two options: you either kill them early, or you end up sacking all your SCVs, so your army is actually like 50 supply bigger than theirs, and then you hope that that one army is going to win because you're not going to have much income behind it. But it really just feels like a tough situation for Terran that there isn't a great answer to besides having impeccable control and finding really good engagements.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds about right, really. It's simply a case of saying that I need these units, and I also need these units, but I also need guns, and I don't have any. This is a really awkward spot. Why can't I have 300 supply? That would be wonderful. But Neoplanet S, I think if there's any map where Drunken Boy could bust out something, we just lost the admin. That's actually problematic. Yeah,
he was the last person who hadn't disconnected.
Yeah, that was we've got the full set now. That's great. Anyway, it seems to me like if there was any map where Drunken Boy could now bust out the style that I don't even know if we've come to expect, because we haven't really seen it in this tournament at all, but we have known him for this. We have seen him play really aggressive, big 1 or 2 base all in. Neoplanet S is a perfect map to do that on, surely.
It absolutely is. I don't know. He hasn't done an all-in yet. He apparently didn't all-in at all in his group stages. Maybe that's just something he saves for latter games in Mia. Honestly, don't know. But if we're going to see it from him, this map makes sense. The problem is it is 2-2. This is one of the biggest matches of his career, honestly, as a new player. And so to put everything on the line with an all-in that kind of situation, that takes a lot of guts. And it's honestly a pretty hard thing to do. As easy as cheese can be, as much as it can get you a free win, that's also putting your tournament life on the line with something that's not entirely skill-based. There's a little element of luck there. And he does seem like the kind of player who would be okay with that. He is a pretty cheesy player on ladder, at least. He's used to taking those risks. But it's a hard risk to take.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. We're going to go into this one once again, and we're hopefully going to actually make that work. Oh, man. This has been a good series so far. It's been a good... I think it's been a really, really good showcase of Drunken Boy's intelligence and Drunken Boy's actual builds, but the last game was definitely not a good showcase of his control.
Or it might have been a very accurate showcase of his control, and that's why we see a lot of the builds coming out of him. But you're right, those first 2 games were just absolutely impeccably planned, and he executed them perfectly, and Minigun played right into him. But the third game, we saw a great counter build from Minigun. He scouted exactly what was going on and dealt with it perfectly. And then the fourth game, we saw Minigun's bread and butter, that defensive, very passive, just absorb everything and then have a super army. And I don't know, Drunken Boy's control just wasn't up to par, and he made a couple of really questionable timing decisions.
Yeah, I think so. It was very strange to roll out with what he had, and even before +2. I mean, even if he had +2, that timing doesn't make any sense at all to me. I don't know what he was really aiming to achieve.
Because he opened with such a tech harass-based build, he didn't have an upgrade-based timing. That was never going to happen for him because his upgrades were so delayed.
Yeah.
Unless he did a lot of damage to his opponent, of course. And so to move out without any medevacs, without many Vikings, without a whole lot of utility to his army, very, very strange decision. Not explicable at all to me.
No, but I don't know. It's odd. He seems to be a player of two halves, really. He makes really smart decisions, and then every now and again he'll do something which just makes me scratch my head a little bit. And I'm thinking, am I just so bad that I can't see how high level this is, or is he actually just making a mistake?
Nah, that attack on 12 o'clock last time, that was definitely not. There was no greater purpose or meaning to that. It was just kind of a mistake and a questionable decision.
All right. Okay, here we are, folks. Neoplanet S is the place to be. And Root Minigun